My cousin moved into my condo in Miami for $900,000, smirking. Mom promised this as my graduation gift, he said. You really think this is your place? He laughed after I'd paid $820,000 for it. You don't belong here, he added. I stayed. Quiet, just handed him the title deed, watching his face change as he realized I owned every square inch. I'll never forget Tyler's expression when I unlocked the door to my oceanfront condo that Thursday after a grueling business trip. Confusion, then smug recognition. He was sprawled on my cream leather sofa, surrounded by moving boxes, his Gucci sneakers propped on my coffee table. For a moment, I thought I'd entered the wrong unit. But no, that was definitely my abstract painting on the wall, my balcony, with the perfect view of South Beach, my home. What are you doing here? I asked, dropping my suitcase by the door. Tyler barely looked up from his phone. Oh, hey, cuz, surprise! He grinned, that familiar golden boy smile that charmed everyone in the family except me. Mom said you knew I was moving in. She promised me this place for graduation. I stared at him, trying to process his words. Tyler, this is my condo. I bought it. I have the mortgage. He actually laughed, threw his head back and laughed like I'd told the funniest joke. Come on, we both know you can't afford a place in Oceana Residences. $900,000 for a two-bedroom? On what you make? He gestured around dismissively. Mom told me everything, how she's been helping you with the payments, how you're struggling to keep up with this lifestyle. My stomach dropped. Classic Aunt Patricia, creating alternate realities where she was the benevolent provider. That's not true. I paid $820,000 for this place. Every penny came from my account. Tyler stood up, towering over me with those extra 3 inches he never failed to use to his advantage. Look, I just graduated summa cum laude from Princeton. I've got my job at Dad's firm starting next month. It makes sense for me to have a place that reflects my position. He looked me up and down, taking in my wrinkled travel clothes and drugstore makeup. Let's be honest, you don't belong here. This was always meant to be temporary for you. I felt that familiar burn, the one I'd felt at every family gathering where my achievements were footnotes, while Tyler's mediocrity got standing ovations. The familiar urge to argue rose in my throat, but something stopped me. Maybe it was exhaustion from my flight, or maybe it was 30 years of fighting this same battle. Instead, I walked to my home office, unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk, and pulled out a folder. I returned to the living room where Tyler was already FaceTiming someone, bragging about the view. Here, I said, handing him the document on top. This might interest you. He glanced at it, annoyed at the interruption. Then his eyes focused. His face changed, confidence morphing into confusion, then disbelief. This is the title deed, he said slowly, with only your name on it. Yes, I replied, my voice steady. Along with mortgage statements, insurance documents, and maintenance fees, all paid by me, all in my name. Tyler's face flushed red. He ended his call abruptly. There must be some mistake. Mom said, I know what Mom said. She's been saying things about my life that aren't true for as long as I can remember. I took the deed back, sliding it carefully into its folder. So, now we have a situation, don't we? His smirk returned, but weaker this time. We'll see about that. Mom's already talking to her lawyer friends. You'll hear from her soon. I nodded, a strange calm settling over me. I'm counting on it. Updated. Wow, I didn't expect so many comments. Thanks for the support, everyone. Yes, I'm definitely getting a security system installed ASAP. Some of you asked if Tyler has a history of taking my things. You have no idea. This condo situation is just the tip of the entitlement iceberg. Would you have handed him the deed or gone straight to calling the police? Tyler and I grew up in the same extended family, but in completely different worlds. His father, my uncle, made a fortune in real estate development while my mom struggled as a single parent after Dad left when I was 4. From childhood, the contrast was stark. Tyler had private tennis lessons while I worked at the local library after school. He got a BMW for his 16th birthday. I took the bus until I saved enough for a 10-year-old Honda with questionable brakes. What really set the tone was how the family treated us. At holiday gatherings, Tyler's B+ grades were celebrated with champagne toasts, while my academic scholarships were met with, "That's nice, dear." When I graduated from state college, debt-free thanks to those scholarships and 3 part-time jobs, Aunt Patricia commented that it was so practical of me to settle for an affordable education, while Tyler was being courted by Ivy League schools. I went into finance, not glamorous wealth management for the ultra-rich like my uncle, but steady corporate work that paid well enough. I lived in a tiny studio, meal prepped on Sundays, and squirreled away every extra dollar. When the 2020 market dip hit, I took a calculated risk and invested my entire savings. The gamble paid off spectacularly, and suddenly I had enough for a down payment on something special. The Oceana Residences condo represented everything I'd worked for: validation, security, beauty. I still remember the day I signed those papers, how the realtor looked surprised when I showed up alone, how the closing attorney kept glancing at the door as if expecting someone else to burst in and pull out a checkbook. But it was all me. Every document bore my name alone. I didn't tell my family immediately. Experience had taught me their reactions would diminish my achievement. Who helped you with the down payment? Or, are you sure you can afford the maintenance fees? When I finally revealed my purchase at Thanksgiving dinner, the response was predictable. Well, it's certainly ambitious, Aunt Patricia said with that tight smile. I hope you're not overextending yourself. Uncle Robert barely looked up from his phone. The Oceana? Isn't that where the Goldsteins have their third vacation home? Interesting choice for a starter property. Only Tyler seemed genuinely interested, asking about amenities and square footage. I should have recognized the gleam in his eye for what it was, not admiration, but calculation. 3 days after finding Tyler in my condo, my phone exploded with notifications. The family group chat was on fire, with Aunt Patricia leading the charge. We need to discuss the condo situation like adults. My mother chimed in with hearts and prayer emojis, followed by Uncle Robert sharing a link to Florida property laws with the comment, verbal agreements can be legally binding in certain circumstances. My cousin Melissa, always the family peacemaker, sent me a private message. Tyler's already posted photos of his new place on Instagram. Aunt Patricia is telling everyone she helped you buy it as an investment for Tyler all along. What's going on? Before I could respond to anyone, my phone rang. Aunt Patricia herself calling to straighten things out. Honey, she began without preamble, I know you're confused, but we had an understanding about that condo. What understanding, Aunt Patricia? My voice sounded strange, too calm. Don't play dumb, sweetie. We discussed this at Christmas. How Tyler would need a suitable place after graduation, how that condo would be perfect for his position at the firm. My memory of Christmas involved me briefly mentioning my new place while everyone focused on Tyler's Princeton stories. There had been no discussion, no agreement. That conversation never happened, I said. Well, that's how I remember it, and your mother agrees with me. Updated. Tyler's now claiming I verbally gifted him the condo during Christmas dinner. My aunt says there were witnesses to this conversation that never happened. I've checked my security camera. Tyler's changed my locks and moved all my personal photos into storage boxes. I can see deliveries of new furniture arriving. Has your family ever tried to gaslight you into giving up something major you worked for? That night, unable to sleep, I dug through old emails. What I found sent ice through my veins. 3 years ago, Aunt Patricia had asked for my help with paperwork for Tyler's first apartment. Paperwork I now realized was an attempt to add my credit history to his rental application. Last year, she'd jokingly suggested I co-sign Tyler's car loan since I had such good credit. I'd declined both times, but the pattern was clear. Sitting in my temporary hotel room at 3 a.m., surrounded by takeout containers and printouts of my property documents, something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about a condo. This was about a lifetime of being used as a backup plan, a safety net, a stepping stone for Tyler's comfort. I'd spent years trying to prove my worth to a family that saw me as nothing but a resource. I'd exhausted myself seeking validation that would never come. But in that moment, looking at the title deed with my name on it, I realized I didn't need their validation anymore. I had built this life myself. I closed my laptop, suddenly calm. No more arguing, no more explaining, no more desperate attempts to be seen. Enough, I whispered to the empty room. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The next morning, I called my college friend Rachel, now a real estate attorney, and explained the situation. She was appropriately outraged on my behalf. He's literally squatting in your property, she said. We could have him removed immediately. Not yet, I replied. I need to handle this carefully. With Rachel's guidance, I began documenting everything. I drove by my condo each day, photographing Tyler's comings and goings. I saved screenshots of his social media posts about my new oceanfront lifestyle and upgrading to a place that suits me. I recorded every call with family members, legal in Florida, with one-party consent. Meanwhile, I let Tyler think he was winning. When he texted asking where I'd stored the extra key to the storage unit, I replied politely. When Aunt Patricia called to suggest I stop by and pick up the rest of my things, I agreed that would be sensible. I even sent a deliberately vague text to the family group chat. Looking forward to resolving this situation amicably. Tyler took the bait immediately. Glad you're being reasonable about this. I can help you find a nice place in Brickell that's more your speed, Aunt Patricia added. We're only asking for what's fair, dear. Behind the scenes, I was moving methodically. I contacted the condo association to report unauthorized occupancy. I obtained security footage of Tyler moving in without my permission. I had Rachel prepare a formal eviction notice and documentation of potential property damage based on the photos I'd taken through the windows. Walls already repainted, fixtures changed, my custom bookshelves apparently removed. 2 weeks in, Aunt Patricia called a family dinner at her house to put this unfortunate situation behind us. The invitation came via my mother, who tearfully begged me to do the right thing for the family. I'll be there, I promised. I want to resolve this too. The evening of the dinner, I dressed carefully. Conservative black dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. Nothing that could be labeled emotional or irrational. I brought a leather portfolio containing everything Rachel and I had prepared. I arrived exactly on time, not early enough to be cornered individually, not late enough to be called dramatic. The scene in Aunt Patricia's dining room was exactly as I'd expected. Tyler sat at the right hand of Uncle Robert, looking smug in an expensive new button-down. My mother's eyes were red-rimmed with performative worry. Cousins and spouses filled the remaining seats, their expressions ranging from curious to uncomfortable. "There she is," Aunt Patricia said, as the maid showed me in. "We've been waiting." I smiled, taking the only empty seat directly across from Tyler. "Sorry to keep you waiting." Uncle Robert cleared his throat. "We thought it best to address this as a family. This discord isn't good for anyone." "I agree completely," I said, placing my portfolio on the table beside my water glass. Aunt Patricia's perfect smile faltered slightly at my calm. She'd clearly expected tears or anger. "Well, I'm glad you've come to your senses. These misunderstandings can escalate so unnecessarily." "Misunderstandings," I repeated. "That's an interesting choice of words." "Now, honey," my mother began, her voice wobbling. "We all want what's best." "Can we skip the preamble?" I interrupted, still smiling. "I believe Tyler has been living in my property for 17 days now. I'm curious to hear his perspective on how that's going." Tyler exchanged glances with his father. "It's going great, actually. The place really needed a man's touch. I've already updated that dated kitchen lighting and repainted those weird accent walls." "Without permission from the property owner," I noted. "That's fascinating." Uncle Robert leaned forward. "Look, we've discussed this as a family. Your aunt and I feel that Tyler's position at the firm requires a certain image. That condo is perfectly situated for his needs," I finished. "Yes. I've heard this reasoning several times now. May I ask a question? Did anyone at this table contribute to the purchase of my condo?" Silence fell. Aunt Patricia recovered first. "Well, not directly, but so that's a no," I continued. "Did anyone at this table co-sign my mortgage?" More silence. "Has anyone here ever made a payment toward my property taxes or HOA fees?" Uncle Robert's face was reddening. "That's not the point." "Actually, it's exactly the point." I opened my portfolio and removed a stack of documents, sliding them to the center of the table. "These are copies of the deed, mortgage agreement, payment history, and property tax records for Unit 1502 at Oceana Residences. As you can see, my name appears exclusively on every page." Aunt Patricia barely glanced at the papers. "No one is disputing your name is on the paperwork, dear. We're simply reminding you of the verbal agreement, the one that doesn't exist," I said pleasantly, removing another document from my portfolio. "This is a transcript of our entire Christmas dinner conversation, during which the condo was mentioned exactly once, by me, when I said I'd finally finished furnishing it. The response from you, Aunt Patricia, was, 'How nice, dear,' before you asked Tyler about his thesis. You recorded our family dinner?" Uncle Robert sounded outraged. "Florida is a one-party consent state," I replied. "I've learned to protect myself." Tyler slammed his hand on the table. "This is ridiculous. Mom promised me." "Your mother can't promise what isn't hers," I said, my voice hardening for the first time. "But let's continue with the evidence, shall we?" I placed a USB drive on the table. "This contains security footage from my building showing Tyler entering with moving boxes on May 15th, without me present. It also shows him changing the locks on May 16th. My cousin Emma, always the most reasonable family member, looked horrified. "Tyler, you changed her locks?" Tyler's face flushed. "She wasn't using the place properly. It was sitting empty half the time while she was traveling for work." "It's my property," I said simply. "How I use it is my decision." Aunt Patricia attempted to regain control. "Regardless of these technicalities, we had an understanding as a family." "I have one more item to share," I interrupted, removing a final document from my portfolio. "This is a formal notice of eviction, prepared by my attorney. Tyler has 48 hours to vacate my property before legal proceedings begin. Additionally, this document outlines the $23,750 in estimated damages." to my property based on the unauthorized modifications he's already made. The silence that followed was deafening. You can't be serious, Uncle Robert finally said. I've never been more serious in my life, I replied, looking directly at Tyler. The authorities have been notified that an unauthorized person has been occupying my property. The eviction notice will be officially served tomorrow morning. Any items left in the condo after the 48-hour period will be considered abandoned property. Tyler's face had gone from red to white. You'd really do this? To family? The irony of his question nearly made me laugh. Family respects boundaries. Family doesn't take what isn't theirs. Family doesn't lie and manipulate to get their way. I stood up, gathering my portfolio. My attorney will be in touch regarding the property damage. I expect the condo to be vacated by Friday at 5 p.m. You're making a huge mistake, Aunt Patricia said, her perfect veneer cracking. This family has supported you your entire life. Has it? Because from where I'm standing, this family has taken from me my entire life. My time, my resources, my achievements, all diminished or repurposed to benefit Tyler. I looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. Not anymore. I walked out of Aunt Patricia's house feeling lighter than I had in years. Behind me, I could hear the eruption of voices, accusations, excuses, damage control. None of it mattered anymore. The next morning, I met Rachel at the courthouse to file the official eviction paperwork. By noon, Tyler had been served. By evening, my phone was exploding with messages from family members divided between those horrified by my betrayal and those like Emma, who were secretly messaging their support. I had no idea they were doing this to you, Emma wrote. I'm so sorry. My mother called 17 times before I finally answered. How could you humiliate your family like this? She demanded. They humiliated themselves, Mom. I'm just enforcing my legal rights. After everything Patricia and Robert have done for us? What exactly have they done for us, Mom? Given us hand-me-downs? Invited us to dinner to make themselves feel charitable? Let me know when you're ready to live in reality. I hung up, blocked her number, and poured myself a glass of wine. Friday arrived. At 4:30 p.m., I parked across from my building, watching. At 4:55, a moving truck pulled away from the entrance. At 5 right exactly, I walked into my lobby, nodded to the security guard who now had strict instructions about authorized visitors, and took the elevator to the 15th floor. The key worked. Tyler had apparently changed the locks back. I entered slowly, unsure what state I would find my home in. The damage was extensive but not irreparable. Walls painted in masculine charcoal gray, my carefully chosen fixtures replaced with chrome and black metal, my soft area rugs gone in favor of bare floors. My personal items had been boxed up and stacked unceremoniously in the second bedroom, but the bones of the place were intact. The view of the ocean still took my breath away. The evening light still filtered beautifully through the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was still mine. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. I left the keys on the kitchen counter. Hope you're happy with yourself. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked to the balcony, opened the doors, and breathed in the salt air. For the first time in weeks, I felt truly at peace. 1 year later, my remodeled condo feels more like me than ever before. The walls are now a soft sage green, my bookshelves have been rebuilt and expanded, and I've added a small workspace for my new side business, financial consulting for women buying their first homes. The irony isn't lost on me. The fallout from what my cousins now call the eviction incident was exactly as dramatic as you'd expect. Aunt Patricia didn't speak to me for 6 months, then sent a carefully worded non-apology. I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding about our intentions. Uncle Robert still avoids eye contact at the rare family functions I attend. Tyler blocked me on every platform, then unblocked me so he could view my photos, then blocked me again when he realized I could see him viewing them. The family fractured along predictable lines. Those who'd always been in the inner circle, the recipients of Aunt Patricia's largesse and Uncle Robert's connections, sided with them completely. Others reached out privately with variations of, I always thought they treated you unfairly. Mother wavered between camps, desperately trying to please everyone until I sat her down for a difficult conversation about enabling toxic behavior. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship on more honest terms. Tyler struggled more than anyone expected. Without the condo as his status symbol, certain doors in Miami's social scene remained closed to him. He moved into a luxury apartment complex that strained his entry-level salary, then had to downsize 6 months later. Last I heard, he was looking for a roommate. The most unexpected outcome was my relationship with Emma and a few other cousins. Once freed from the family hierarchy, we discovered genuine connections based on mutual respect. Emma's daughter now calls me the cool cousin and stays with me occasionally when Emma needs a break. As for me, I've changed in ways I never anticipated. I speak up more easily. I say no without guilt. I recognize my worth without external validation. And perhaps most surprisingly, I feel genuine compassion for Tyler and his parents. Their world is so small, so dependent on appearances and status. My world grows larger every day. Last week, I received a letter from Tyler, an actual paper letter, not a text or email. I recognized his handwriting on the envelope and almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won out. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he wrote. "My therapist says I need to make amends for my sense of entitlement. I'm sorry for taking your condo. It was wrong. I always thought you had it easy because no one expected much from you. Now I realize the opposite was true. You built everything yourself while I had everything handed to me. I'm trying to do better. I haven't responded yet. Forgiveness is a process, not a moment. But I've placed the letter in my desk drawer instead of the trash, which feels like progress. Sometimes I stand on my balcony as the sun sets over Miami Beach, watching the ocean change colors, and I think about how close I came to losing all of this, not just the physical space, but my sense of self-worth. I think about the girl who would have given up her dream home to keep the peace, who would have believed she somehow owed it to her family. She's gone now. In her place stands a woman who knows that maintaining healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. A woman who understands that real family lifts you up rather than uses you up. A woman who owns not just a beautiful condo, but her entire life. The view from here is better than I ever imagined. Updated. Thank you all for coming on this journey with me. Your comments have been incredibly validating. Some of you asked for an update on my mother. We're now in family therapy together, working through decades of patterns. Tyler started his own business last month instead of working for his dad. Sometimes standing your ground doesn't just change your life, it ripples outward. Have you ever noticed how setting one boundary often leads to transformation for everyone involved?